How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. And today I'm going to be talking about Oshi No Ko. I know I usually like rambling a bit before I get into the video. I will do that for a second, but I do have to get into the concept of the video fairly quick because I'm going to be covering 3 seasons in one video, and so I got to be a bit quicker about it. I haven't been uploading, I know. Like I probably say in every video that you guys are going to see once I'm able to edit and get them all out. I'm horrible at this. I'm horrible at editing, and I'm horrible at keeping a fair schedule. I get so preoccupied by things that I just forget that I'm supposed to do this type of stuff. And of course I'm doing it for me, so I'm not even doing it for anyone. So me doing this, I just put pressure on myself thinking like, oh my god, I need to upload. But yeah, it's just basically for me. But let's get into the show, into the entire reason why you probably clicked on this video, not to understand what my experience is like here in Japan, which, by the way, very great here in my dorm. But while I've been here in Japan, I've taken the time to watch and finish, start and finish Oshi No Ko. If you haven't heard of Oshi No Ko, you might not be into the whole anime scene, but if you are, you've probably already heard of the show. Whether or not you like it is a completely different thing, but the show is one of the bigger ones, especially right now since season 3 did just wrap up not that long ago, so there's a lot of content to talk about. There's a lot that we need to dive into, so let's get started. Oshi No Ko is one of those shows that you don't really know why you watch it, because it's an interesting concept. The concept is very interesting. Like it easily got me. I'm gonna try to explain the concept best I can. I don't want to get into too many spoilers because season 3 is fairly new, and honestly, I do think that this is one of the more watchable anime that I've probably talked about. When it comes to Oshi No Ko, the concept is very good. A doctor gets reincarnated as a baby of his favorite pop star, and so it's a very interesting concept, and I don't really want to go too much deeper into that because then I'll probably go a bit into spoilers towards the end of the video. Right now you can watch this without getting too many spoilers, but then I'll talk about very specific moments that I really enjoyed and stuff like that, so you can get a bit better understanding. So when it comes to the show, it does a very good job at the first episode. The first episode, just like any English teacher's ever told you, you need to write with a good hook. If you can keep the audience like engaged, or like at least pique their interest at the beginning of an essay, then you're able to do so. Like you're able to keep their attention for the rest of the show. And I can say that this show has definitely done that. Not to say that the show is bad in any regard. I'm just saying that what you're expecting from the first episode of the show doesn't quite hold up throughout the entire season until season 3. Season 2 is kind of like a in between season where it's still setting a lot of stuff up. But a lot of the times during the show, I was feeling like the show was constantly just in the setup phase. There wasn't too much pushing the story forward, but there wasn't too much like unnecessary drama. Must I say, a lot of the show is probably a bit more unnecessary drama, but I think because it sets up the characters in a very good way, and it also sets up the story in like a slow but pretty, like it's a slow burn, but it's a good burn, because once they start ramping up the pace of the show, it gets very good. It's a very intense concept where Aqua is trying to find his father. I'm gonna go into spoilers now. I know that I said that I was probably gonna do a bit more of this episode without them, but honestly, if I don't get into spoilers, and I can't get into the entire meat and potatoes of the show and why the show is actually like a really good watch. So in the first episode, we find out Ai dies, and the entire catalyst of the show is her death, because now Aqua is trying to find who his father is to end up torturing him and killing him, I imagine. I don't know if torturing him was part of the thing at the beginning, but now it has become, where he wants to make sure that he inflicts the same pain that she felt in her moments of death, and make sure that he feels it in the same way. No, his dad did not point the dad pointed the knife, the gun, but he didn't stab her, didn't shoot her in the end. He sent someone that he knew was very mentally unstable to go and kill I. Why? His reasons are still unknown, but since we've already got into season 3, we've seen that he kills another girl, and so it's probably some type of a fetish or something like that he just likes doing that, and so it's not something that I feel like we're gonna understand anytime soon. What happens with the show? Why is it so interesting? Aqua's character, for me, is probably one of the most interesting ones, but one that doesn't need too much of an explanation, as Ruby. Ruby, for me, is probably the best character in the show right now. My favorite is I, but she died in the very first episode of the show, so you can't really get to see her a bit more. But the thing that the show sets up very good is that whole entire arc with Aqua trying to find his dad and trying to kill him in the end, and not really explaining that to Ruby. Ruby has been a very static character throughout the entire show. She only really becomes a dynamic character whenever she finds out that her dad had something to do with the death of her mother. What makes the show a lot more interesting than what I've been talking about is not only did the doctor reincarnate into Aqua, but one of his sick patients that presumably had some form of cancer, and she was stuck her entire life in the hospital, now was reincarnated as Ruby, and her love of I from her previous life definitely went by. So the show does a very good setup. Like it gets you hooked from the very first episode, but then it goes and then it gets into like a show business drama and stuff like that like you don't really understand very well. For me, it was pretty interesting because I'm super interested in the show business, but it was explaining like the issues with it, with the corruption with it, why you need an agency, why you don't need an agency, why you need to do this the certain way that they do it. Like it gives you like the entire world building, I guess you'd say, without actually giving you a whole different world to fully understand. You're understanding business, you're understanding how some actors are chosen in very bad ways and stuff like that. So you're getting a grasp of all of that, but you're also getting a grasp of different characters. Most notably Arima Ana. For me, I thought that she was the primary love interest to Aqua, but honestly, the show has really thrown me off in so many ways, and I'll get into it in a second. But her character was super interesting because when you met her the first episode, she was annoying as fuck. But then she has like a lot of character development off screen whenever she becomes older and doesn't get as many roles because she was a child actress who was just a complete bitch. And so it shows how she grows as a character, but she's so susceptible to a lot of things. So the character overall, for me, I really love her character, but and this might be where the episode gets a bit controversial. I like Akane a bit better. Akane is Aqua's like make believe girlfriend in like season 1 to 2. The reason why she's make believe is because Aqua was in a reality TV show, and at the end of the TV show, they end up dating, but they're dating solely for work purposes, and then eventually it becomes a bit more, but then it doesn't. And the reason why it becomes a bit more is because Aqua figures out that Akane can be very useful to him because she analyzes everything and she does a very good job at like mimicking characters. For example, in the show when they're doing the reality TV show, there's a lot of drama there, and then she comes back one day and she finds out that Aqua, like his one true love in the show was I, and so the reason like why she's so good at mimicking is because then she goes and mimics I, and so it kind of like lures Aqua into this false sense of security, thinking that she's a potential love interest, and so what that creates is now some distance between him, Arima, and like it forms like this little love triangle that they have there that the show focuses mainly on, which was one of my bigger issues with the show because I cared about the love triangle, but I cared more about the drama of the psychopathic killer of a dad. And so it did a very good job at pivoting into season 3, focusing more on that aspect of everything because, like I said before, Aqua is using Akane for her knowledge and her being able to figure out things and uncover things. She's the person that figures out who Aqua's dad really is, which was one of the biggest questions of the show. Who is Aqua's dad? And why can't anyone find him? Why is it such a mystery who he is? She's able to piece together and figure out who he is. And so once she figures out who he is, now she becomes to go. Now she starts to go a bit crazy, stalking the dad and basically coming up with an entire murder plot that Aqua ends up saving his dad. He knows that the burden is his and not hers, and she really turned it hers because she was in love with him because he saved her, and so she was thinking that he was saving him in a way. It's very complex character development in that situation, and I think that they do a very good job at developing Akane's character while also giving Aqua an ultimatum. You can either let your father breathe for a bit longer, or you can let her go on with her plan and basically keep your hands clean. He ends up going with the former, which makes Akane pretty mad, and so now she's planning on doing something to stop him from making a big mistake, which is, well, not really mistake, but stop him from doing something that he can't come back from, which is killing his dad. And at the same time, which is where the show goes from pretty good to really good, is when Ruby figures this all out. Because around this same time, Aqua thinks that he's in the clear, that everything that he had been working for, it was for nothing because his father was already dead. Spoiler alert, he wasn't. He was just told that the wrong person was dead and that the wrong person was his father. But then he figures out, oh shit, that wasn't actually true. And Ruby, not knowing that information or not knowing anything, she decides that she was going to get very popular, find out who she was, and then, I don't know if kill her herself or send Aqua after him or send their mother's ex-producer after them. I don't know what exactly she was planning, but then she started to plan out how she wanted to kill her dad, which is just great if you're the dad in that situation because you live rent-free in everybody's mind. But so now Ruby, like I said, Ruby was a very static character because before she knew anything about her dad, she felt a bit more like a side character than an actual like secondary protagonist. Aqua was obviously the protagonist, like, don't get me wrong, but she didn't feel like a secondary protagonist. If anything, that could have been Akane or Arima. Like it was just not going in the way that I really wanted, because I found Ruby to be such an interesting character, knowing who she reincarnated as. That was one of my biggest things. What are they going to do when they figure out who they are? Because one of the things that I was thinking was, if you put in like the history that they had before, this girl, she died at like 14 or 15, like, and she was in love with her doctor because he was the only person that ever showed her affection, and the doctor really loved her as a patient. I don't know how he sees her right now in this case, but obviously, like, he's very fond of her, and he really wants to see her succeed and do well, which is why he's a bit more of a strict brother with her. And so he figured it out a while ago who she was, but she never really figured out who he was. And so at the end of the season, they do this very nice thing where he finally reveals himself, which I'm going to rewatch at some point because it was such a good scene, honestly, and it was such an emotional scene that I just thought that it was one of the highlights of the show, where she finally figures out that that's the doctor, that's the reason why she wanted to become a pop star, that's the reason why she did all the things that she did, and why she tried as hard as she did was because she thought that somewhere that person was going to be looking. And then all of that comes, and the part where she becomes dynamic is when she finds out that the doctor's dead. And when she figures out that the doctor died, and the person that made her want to do everything that she was trying to do, it sends her into a rage, and so then she wants to do exactly what Aqua wants to do. But now that she knows why Aqua is doing the things that he's doing, it makes it a lot easier for her to understand and accept everything that's about to happen in the fourth season. The fourth season hasn't come out. It's only 3 seasons up to now. And like I said, right now let me go a bit more into analysis rather than just talking about the story and what the characters do. The seasons for me, it goes number 3 is the best. Number 1 is a close second, only because of how good the first episode is, and then season 2, it does have a clear lack behind it, but like I said, season 2, you need some type of a setup, and I think that the show does a very good job at making you care about the characters, care about their drama, and then still keeping you like hooked on what the bigger problem is. And so there, at no point was I thinking like, oh my god, can this show please be over? I was just thinking like, hey, I wanna see a bit more developments on the dad side. I want to see a bit more developments on Ruby. I want to see a bit more about why so many people were as affected about Ai's death as they were, which obviously I completely understand. President of the production company, he lost his star idol and someone that he viewed as his daughter. And then these two kids lost their parent. They're the only parent that they have, and they were reincarnated from people that absolutely adored this woman. And everyone that was touched by her life was so much better because of how good of a person she was. Even though, like she said, like that she lies a lot, saying that she loves you and stuff like that, it made her character very intriguing. And so overall, I think that the show does a very good job at setting up. That is something that I have to give this show. It sets up the character dynamics. It sets up their flaws. It sets up their strengths. It sets up their motivations. And so you know what each character is gonna think when certain things happen, and it makes them very organic. Because what happens is, like, I never think, oh, why would Aqua do that? The Kane was a bit of a weird one. Why she would want to go kill the father, but it makes a bit of sense because like she was very close to taking her own life, and Aqua saved her, and so she wanted to repay the favor by like saving his life in a way. And so it kind of makes a bit of sense. It is a bit weird to go out and murder your boyfriend's dad. And then once she found out she was being watched by Aqua, she realized that he didn't really trust her, because this is a very delicate issue that he wants to handle by himself. Overall, I think that the show is absolutely great. The highs are extremely high. The lows aren't that low. Like it can be very solid at many points, but those points where it reaches the peak, they are just so good. Like I said, that one scene where they figure out who each other are. That one scene where Aqua like thinks that everything is good, and Akane figures out he's not thinking about everything that could have happened to explain why his dad isn't actually dead. There are so many moments like this where it makes the show very interesting, and like I said, the characters do feel very organic. And I think that that's something that's very important in any anime. Because whenever you're dealing with the animation genre, it's a bit more difficult to keep people entertained on people that aren't actors or people that might not feel as real. So good writing and good character development is very important in terms of keeping the audience engaged. And for me, this show, it might not be the most interesting, like concept wise, like doing everything right, like at the like doing every single scene justice to push dominoes forward, but it definitely keeps you intrigued and understanding characters that do feel very organic in a story that, yeah, I don't think that people would go out of their way to kill their father, but probably get him arrested or something like that. Like try to get some evidence against him, maybe. I'm not exactly sure. Thankfully, I'm not in that position. But yeah, I find the show to be extremely entertaining, and can't wait for season 4. I'm definitely gonna try to get the manga and try to read it eventually in Japanese. But overall, I think that this is one of the better things to watch that isn't too out of the ordinary in terms of like maybe watching Attack on Titan or maybe watching something like this. It's not a world that's very difficult to build, and so it's a bit easier to stay grounded to reality, which I think is a very good for certain shows, and then it doesn't work for every show. But I think that this show does a very good job at its concept and at its characters. So if you haven't already, go watch it. In the United States, I don't know where it's on. Here in Japan, it's on Netflix, but I'm pretty sure in the United States it was on Hulu. I might be wrong about that, but you should definitely go check out the show if you're interested in the anime genre, because it's actually one of the better ones when it comes to character development, and it's taught me a lot about how to develop a character and how the characters progress throughout the story. So definitely go watch it. Uh, I'll definitely try to be updating a lot more and doing a lot more. I might, I'll probably edit this video tonight, try to release it for tomorrow, and then try to work on a few other videos that I haven't gone into. For example, all my traveling vlogs. There's one about me going bungee jumping. Because I just haven't had time to sit down and edit, and I'm always so focused on new content, and that new content just like feels like it never gets here, and I have to do a better job at uploading, even if I don't feel like I have the best content, but just uploading and letting you guys see a bit of my life, because I'm not the most interesting guy, so it's not gonna be like Mr. Beast videos. But anyway, I'll see you all in the next one. See ya.